Welcome to Los Compas Lounge, a PSA for brown men.
We are your hosts. This is Raul.
This Javier.
My name is Reuven, and this is a podcast about brown men talking about issues that matter to you. We talk about things that we don't usually talk about in the brown communities. We're just three regular compas sharing our experiences to inspire positive change. Compa, pull up a seat. We have one ready for you. This past weekend, a really close friend of mine passed away. And it was very challenging. It still is. And as my wife broke down, I was basically your typical man, typical husband. I was there for her, and I kept in my emotions for the most part because I felt I had to be there for my wife. And I was, as this was going on in my mind, I was thinking, wow, why am I doing this? This being, why am I not showing any emotions? Even though I was very emotionally internally, but I wasn't showing anything externally. And my wife knows me well enough to understand,
But
yeah.
Ruben, a lot of us brown men internalize a lot of that, and I think this is a really good topic to get into and think about it. Like what is mourning to you, compas?
Yeah, it was a very challenging, and like I said, I'm still feeling tons of emotion. And like I said, as all this was going on, I was thinking, wow, why am I feeling? I mean, not why am I feeling this way, but why am I acting this way as if nothing is happening? And I started thinking back to, and it sounds weird as all this is happening. I'm having a flashback to when I'm like, 6 years old or something, which is weird in itself. But I was like, yeah, or just like, like I was like, wow, I think I learned this from my father. The short time that he was part of my life. He was, he's a military guy, and the military basically teaches you to compartmentalize your emotions and just basically be a soldier, and that's what he basically taught his two sons. I never thought that 40 years later I still act the way that I was taught to act. I don't know about you, compas, but my father never really told me anything. It's just more learning by example. So he would do something, and I just, like this little kid, I'm like, oh, all right. So that's how I'm supposed to deal with things. So yeah, what about you? What about you, Javi?
Well, I mean, Mourning, I remember the first person that I remember like really good was my great grandmother. I must have been about like 9, 10 years old, and I was her favorite. She used to spoil me. And then I remember but she lived here in the US for a while, but then she went back to Mexico. And then when my dad told me that she died, I was probably about like 8 years old, 8 or 9. And I just started like just processing like what does that mean? Like we always pray about the people that died and everything like that, but this was the first time that it hit me personally. I remember I just started like processing, and then I just started crying. I just started crying, and like my other siblings, they're like, oh man, that's sad, but you know what, I mean, I guess for me it was like she used to spoil me, like I was her favorite, su chiquiado is what they used to say, and like that was the first time that I started thinking about the afterlife.
The first time I kind of made it when it was real for me is it's crazy because my grandma on my mom's side and my uncle both passed away relatively back to back. And I remember one of my family members, we were at school or we were in junior high, and she said, "Hey, Tita passed away," and I was like, "What?" Well, we were kind of expecting it already because she was in a hospital and she fell down and she had a stroke, and she helped raise us, so we were kind of really close to her. But it was weird because back then I remember thinking about it And
How old were you? Do you remember how old
I
you
was
were?
in junior high, so what's that,
Okay, junior high.
13, maybe
Yeah.
around there.
Uh-huh.
And I remember very clearly, and it's still with me today. It's kind of a weird regret, love, hate feeling, where I was like, okay, I felt numb,
Yeah.
and I felt like I didn't know what to feel. It was weird. But since that person started to cry, here's the fucked up part. I felt like I had to obligate it to cry, and I kind of faked it a little bit, with her right there. But I remember crying and tearing up, and probably some of that stuff was real, but part of it was like I was just thinking about it. Like, think you said a good word, processing it, and it didn't come as natural, that always bothered me. And then maybe, and here's the sad part, my my uncle Beto, I named my son, his middle name is Roberto Beto. I was really close to him as well. And the sad part is that he was close to his mom, Dita, my grandma. And during they went to Mexico, to go bury my grandma, and he was over there, and he was drinking and partying it up with his friends, and they were in the back of a truck. And during that time, they got into a car accident, and my uncle was in the back of the truck, and he flew out, and he died. Yeah, it was so fucked up shit, man.
Oh shoot.
And and it really,
Oh man.
when I learned that one hit me like a fucking ton of bricks, and I remember mourning or crying, and it was so distinctively different. And then you heard the stories of I love my people, I love the brown people, but pinche gente over there, you know, went to the bodies and started stealing their boots and shit like that, And by the time they got there, and you hear that stuff, and it gets you more pissed off.
So he's laying there dead, and people went to go jack him.
Go jack them, pretty much. And you hear that stuff, and it really, I think it just compounded my feelings. And it was just weird. And my mom told me that he was very close to my grandma. He really never got married. He got married, divorced. He just really never had kids, nothing like that. But he's a hard worker, and he told my grandma. My mom says, like, since forever, ama, cuando tú te mueras, I have no reason to live. And fucking dicho y hecho, dude. And you hear those kind of weird stories, but that's one of those crazy fucking stories. It's like a prophecy come true, come true. And he went out, pretty bad. That was my first experience with mourning, like real mourning. And you hear, my mom, and my aunts, they had to wear the black dress, and you can, culturally, eso for culturally and all that stuff. And I didn't get all that, I didn't understand it, but I knew the feelings were real.
Yeah, and that's the thing about learning. I don't believe we, or at least my experience. I can't generalize. But my experience, no one ever really taught me. How to mourn. I don't ever recall getting the sit down talk of mijo. This is how we deal with death. This is what you have to do. The only thing that I remember, this is what you have to do, is we had to wear our black, and nomás, you know, cállate, mijo. Literally, not even please be quiet, cállate. Like, oh, shit.
Yeah, but it's funny, and related to that, again, I never had to sit down, but you did have kind of, was part of our life where it was like, okay, you can be happy, you got to be moping, you got to wear black, and then every Friday or whatever it was, we either light a candle, or mom did, right, and she prayed the rosary. My mom's really religious, so I had some kind of content or context, right, to look at and figure out, okay, well, that's what it means, the culture. But I never, today I don't want to say I don't subscribe to it. I learned from it, but it's just something that was not ingrained, but just something that my parents practice and everybody practice. And I totally, I got it, I understood it, but I was just a little bit disconnected, unfortunately.
So me as a father, I had to kind of, I guess, explain to my children about death, but I didn't know how. So as you guys know, my brother passed away. He passed away 6 years ago, and we were having dinner. We were about to have dinner, and what happened was that my brother, he turned 40, and he was actually he went to Mexico. He was in Ensenada, and the last person that was with him when he was alive, he said that he was doing good, that they were eating oysters. What the coroner said, it was pancreatitis or something like that. So I guess he had a bad pancreas, and with the oysters and the drinking and everything, had a bad reaction. And what happened was that my brother, he just wanted to rest, and his friend wanted to still go out. So he said, "I'll just wait for you in the hotel." So he was in the hotel. When his friend came back, he saw my brother just, I guess, like vomiting or something like that. And it's just, but what I was getting at was, I didn't know how to tell my kids, and my kids, they talk to my brother's son, they're cousins, they're the same age. And his mom didn't know how to tell his son, that his father had passed away, you know. And we said, like, well, I'm not going to tell my kids until Raquel tells Adam, my brother's son. And then my wife said, you know what, about like 2-3 days passed or something like that. And then after that, my wife said, okay, well, Raquel said that she's going to have to tell her son now, and we're like, okay. Then we always pray before we eat, uh, we say grace before dinner. And so then we just started, my daughter, usually I pick one of the kids to say, so after she prayed, and after that I go, okay, let's just go, Heavenly Father, thank you for this food, and I pray that you welcome my brother into your kingdom. And I forgot what else I said, and my oldest son, Javi, he's like so bright, so smart. So he's like, he picked up and said, what do you mean welcome him into his kingdom? Like I didn't know how to tell my kids, And then after that, I just broke down right there, He goes, exactly what I mean, mijo. I want God to, he's like, did he die? And I just got up. I went to the restroom, and then I don't know what my wife told the kids or something like that, And then my son Javi, he comes and he just gives me a hug. Papi, it's okay. It's okay. He came to comfort me, and I just, I just, I just hugged him, and like, we're talking about that our parents never taught us, I mean, how do you teach someone about mourning, I mean, I don't know if the way I did it is good or bad, or.
Sounds to me you did a great job, brother.
All this time gone by, not a day goes by when you're not in my mind. You're always on my mind.
Oh, yeah, I mean, showing emotions, and just being human. You that was a perfect perfect lesson right there. For your kids. To see their father cry. To show emotion. Um, Man, I wish my father would have been able to do that with me. It's it was almost the opposite. I mean, 30, 40 years, 30, about 30 years later, I had to teach my father how to show emotion, you know, and I'm not proud of that. I'm like, here's a grown man right here, senior already, a senior citizen already, and here I am, back then, a 20-something year old trying to teach their father that. So Javi, I mean, you were able to teach your children just by being you. You know,
Being present,
yeah,
I think we have this great opportunity as fathers and father figures to try to get it right, and I think it's natural for us men to struggle with a lot of feelings of like, fuck, man, how do I talk to my kids about this? And now, a brown and proud PSA. Mourning is when you take your grief you have inside and express it outside yourself, just like we do at funerals. Compas, we encourage you not to hold your feelings of loss inside. Let them go. Cry. Continue the conversation at loscompaslounge.com. Well, one other little experience with mourning is my cousin Hugo passed away. He's probably about 5 years younger than me. And we were very similar, when I came back. It's funny, when I came back from Texas and I met up with you, Javi, and we were partying it up and doing our thing, right? On the Primo side, on my cousin's side, I was partying it up with Hugo and the Tauruses. My last name, my middle name is Torres. It's funny, my mom, here, quick side story. I'm Raul Torres Pereira. The doctor asked my mom, "Hey, so what middle name do you want to give your child?" And she said Torres. And she thought, what maiden name, pobre mexicano. So fuck, dude, I got my mom's maiden name as my middle name. So my cousin,
Archie Pereira.
yeah, RT Pereira. So now I wear the badge of honor, and and my cousins, the Tauruses, shit, I spent a lot of time with them when I came back from Texas because it was good. They party. It was nice. We did, even good old Hector came out with us a couple of times. We did a reggae boat. It's just a
Oh, he's a
big,
Taurus too, huh?
he's a
yeah.
Taurus
Actually, he's a
also.
Taurus too. Yeah.
Huh?
So my cousin Hugo and I would club it or try like be wingmen every now and then with his
So
friends.
you guys are the same age,
Oh,
Hugo,
yeah,
you or
but
him?
he's a little younger than me. But anyways, we had kids about the same age, man. We had kids about the same age, and um, it was beautiful. There's a picture of us where they started bagging on us, the primas and shit. Pinche mandilones, because there we were. My wife was at work. I took my son Santiago. He had his daughter, and we were both feeding we had our kids and we were feeding them bottle right there at the party or at the get together.
Con
Exactly.
tu pañalera y tu
Yeah, yeah.
pañalera.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a good time. It was a freaking good time. And my cousin Hugo, and as we were coming up, being fathers right around the same time, I think it was just beautiful. And then he we were at a get together, and he pulled me off to the side. He goes, "Hey, Primo, hey, what's up?" Fuck, man, I've been sick. I've been having these back pains, and it's right on my spine, and they can't find what it is. Blah blah blah. So long story short, you know, uh, he's at the hospital and he's getting better, but um, I remember visiting him, and you think about those words, or you think about this image of, oh, he's on his deathbed. You hear that expression and shit. When I was there, man, he was on his fucking deathbed. and he's still joking, and he has pipes down his throat and shit like that. I go, "Hey, Prim, he's a little bit hungry," and he's joking around, passing gas, and everybody's laughing, and we're like, "Ah, yeah." I go, "Hey, I go, yeah, exactly. Your brother's outside. I want, or I don't know what." I go, "You want me to tell him something?" He goes, "Yeah, tell that fucker to bring me a double double." So yeah, good spirits. But I remember walking in and looking at him, and fuck, man, I hate to think that way, but I just like, I saw him, and I was like, I knew, I was like, this is the last time I'm gonna see him alive. And he's like, "I appreciate your mom and dad." He's talking about, his uncle and his aunt. He's like, "My dad's Pepe." He goes, "Pepe, ¿verdad que voy a salir de aquí?" My dad's like, "Huguito, claro que sí vas a salir. You're gonna get out. Don't worry about that. This is fine. You're at a hospital. They're gonna take care of you." and we were kind of talking a little bit, and we kind of reminiscing about how beautiful it is to be parents and shit. And then, we're kind of wrapping things up in terms of our visit. And I remember tapping him or on his knee or like thighs or knees right there. And in my mind, I said goodbye, but I didn't tell him that. I didn't want to say his spirits. I said, Primo, I'll see you later, man. Orale pues. Okay, cool, cool. Oh, I think because he was feeling bad, he couldn't breathe and he was, like basically the doctors were kind of ushering us out, I believe, something like that. Or at least that's what I like to think. I went home and shared with my wife that I saw my cousin and it doesn't look good. And it was later that week that uh, he went home. He didn't want to die in the hospital, and they had a nurse and whatnot at his home, and then he passed away. And this is again probably 4 years ago. And I think the saddest part for me was he is such a young dad, and we're both dads, and I could not imagine leaving this world without my kids. Fuck. And that was the saddest part. I think I knew that at that point as a grown man, 4 years ago, as I was thinking about it because it was so real to me in terms of kids, and I was just so sad for his daughter and so sad for my kids that it made it really real for me. I remember we were having dinner one time and my son had finished eating and my daughter, and I think I was taking my time eating, and my wife was doing dishes and I was sitting down the way I was not facing her, but I fucking broke down, like silently eating, I just like eating, like fucking crying. And it was weird, but it was that same feeling like, fuck, I don't want nobody to see me cry. I don't want my wife and my kid to see me cry. So I kind of forced myself to eat and just fucking muscle through it, and fuck. And you know what was funny? I remember I succeeded. I was like, the tears were down and I was cool and I was keep
Doesn't even
eating.
taste good or
Yeah, I
nothing.
didn't even know. I just felt my wife passing through and me said pendejo, and I kind of turned this way, towards the food. And she didn't notice and she didn't see it. And to this day, she didn't see it. And that shit bothers me, man, because I was like, I'm at my own house with my child. I understand the child part, my 1 year old, 2 year old son at that time. I didn't want to like freak him out, but my wife is my wife, the love of my life, and I can't even express myself, dude. I had to fucking fake it, and
You have to be able to, though,
yeah, and it
Raul. Okay.
sucks.
I mean, I understand trying to put a front in front of your kids because I mean, I try my hardest to be strong,
Yeah,
and it's like I felt like if once I let it out, and then my kids, it's just like after that, oh my god, I was like a river, like for the next
yeah.
few weeks. It's
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
I mean, it's like a man, yeah. I mean,
And
it's
and I think that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Or I mean, this thing about today's topic is like, fuck, why do we do that to ourselves? And you're right, Javi. I need to get better at it. And I had plenty of times to mourn my cousin's passing, of course after that, but I remember that experience specifically.
I think it's part of the machismo culture or something
All
like
of that,
that,
yeah, man. And
like,
like,
oh, you have to be strong. Como dicen, los hombres no lloran. And,
yeah,
you know,
exactly. And just like what Ruben said earlier, it's like, he had to be the man he had to go comfort his wife.
Yeah, like I remember when my abuelita passed.
I remember your
Uh,
abuelita. I remember
yeah,
her
yeah.
and
So,
Fletcher just kicking back all the time.
oh yeah, man. Yeah, she that you know my abuelita, man. She had a spunk and a spirit in life, and she basically raised my cousins and helped raise my brother and I. So she was our abuelita, pero también she was like she was our mom too. And when she passed away, man, I mean, the cousins, that's what I call my generation. The cousins, we just, man, we lost it, dude. We lost it, and and we didn't know how to deal with it, and we didn't know what to do. I mean, yeah, at the funeral, we did what you're supposed to do, which is, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, so I'm just gonna be quiet. I'm not gonna make an ass out of myself. I'm not gonna fuck things up. I'm just gonna stay quiet, and I'm just gonna put my head down and just cry, but no one's gonna see me cry. And literally all of us did that. And once um, the funeral commenced, and we, our moms, went together, so there was three, my two tias y mi mama, they went, they went together and did their thing, and it basically sort of left the cousins, to ourselves, and well, what the fuck are we gonna do, And we did the only thing. We did the only thing that
Fight.
25-year-old men do. I mean, we went to the liquor store. We got a chingo of fucking beer and liquor. We went to my cousin Abden's place, and we just started drinking, dude. Started drinking, and we knew what we were doing, but we couldn't say it. We couldn't verbalize it, even though we knew what we were doing. We just started drinking and and then finally I had to say something. So I said, I love my abuelita. And then, boom!
Everybody.
I just started crying, and everyone started crying, and we were all basically just. It was almost like it was like a seance almost, dude. I mean, we were all just saying abuelita, abuelita, boom, boom, and we drank more, and we cried more, we drank more, we cried more, and yeah, as always, when the cousins get together, pinche chingazos broke out. I don't even know why, but yet we sort of knew why, because
I remember your family parties. I remember you invited me to your family parties. There's always fights.
Dude. And the thing is, the reason we drank and the reason we fought is because we didn't know any other way. We didn't know any other way to express our emotions and express our feelings, except that we were angry. We didn't want to be sad. It's better to be angry than to be sad. And we were like crying as we're fucking hitting each other, man. And we're like crying and crying, and oh man, it was ugly. It was like ugly, but that's what we needed. That's the only way, and it's fucked up even to this day, dude. That's the only way that we can express ourselves, man. Because no one ever taught us any other way. No one ever taught us anything, basically, when it comes to our emotions and, how to, like I said, she wasn't just our abuelita. She was, like, basically our mom, She, like, raised us, and man, I mean, just thinking about it right now, I'm more angry than I am sad still. Because I mean that's the emotions that I remember. I mean, even though we were all, we fucking,
It's funny that you say that, because my dad too, like with my brother, my dad was like, man, like it's just like cursing out God, and like, and then when they do the novenaro, they pray for 9 days, the rosary. And so then the ladies would come down to my dad's house and it's like cursing out God in front of the ladies, like, oh, how dare you? So, no, Dios, ¿por qué te quejas que quieres que le dé gracias que se llevó a mi hijo? Like my dad was like, would you say, Ruben, like pissed, like angry, like he was like, oh man, like bile, like, oh, like my dad was like so mad for, like, man, like for, oh man.
It's funny that like in normal, I don't know, say normal, or like in mainstream normality, I guess, if you want to call it. I'm making this word up, or phrase up, but you usually think about mourning, about being sad, and thinking about the beautiful times, and thinking about like, oh well, let's literally mourn and remember and be humble and whatnot. It's shit for us. Let's be angry and crazy and pissed and all these crazy emotions, man. It's part of who we
It's just
are.
it's an emotional turmoil. It's
That's
just
a
like
turmoil. It's a good way to put it, man.
This one night, like about maybe 15 years ago, I was in my apartment, just working on some stuff, and mi abuelita came to me and she said, "Mijo, write me a poem. You love to write. Write me a poem. It's okay now. It's okay. And share it with your cousins." And I'm like, wow. And I just got on my computer and I just wrote a poem. And man, it took like 10, 15 plus years for me to finally cry like a man, not cry like a baby, but finally cry like a man should cry. And after I wrote it and I read it, I just started just bawling, man, bawling. And it wasn't pain anymore. It was pure love. It was pure love.
it's funny you say that. No, it's funny when you say cry like a man because one time my dad told me he's like, "Ay, vino mi nieto David, which was my brother David's son." He's like, "Y nos abrazamos y lloramos tan a gustos." He's like, he said that he hugged basically his son's son, his grandson. He's like, "Y los dos estamos así llorando." My dad told me the story. He's like, I wonder if that's what kind of got him to like release the anger or something like that, like seeing that my brother lives through his offspring, through his grandkids, or I mean,
Grandchildren, yeah.
your grandchildren, and maybe that's when the healing started, like for my dad also, because for a long time I was like, I told my wife, like, man, I don't know, my dad's ever gonna recover from this. And she's like, "What do you mean? He's going to die from that?" I go, "No, I just think he's not going to die from this. I just think he's going to be bitter for the rest of his life." Because that's what it seemed like he was like, like bitter, like mad, like rage, like. And whenever somebody said, "Oh, gracias a Dios," yeah, like he was like all like that, and like it seemed like if he got a thrill out of
Talking
um
shit to God.
yeah, in front of people that like pushing the buttons of the people that the special, like especially religious, because when my mom would bring like some people from the church over to pray or whatever, oh, que Dios te bendiga, Dios, like that, like he got
A kick out of it.
a kick out of it, yeah,
Well, it's funny. Speaking of a kick out of it, is like both of you are talking about healing. We talked about mourning. And so for our next question would be, how soon is it to get over it, quote unquote? How soon is it, man?
And that's the thing. I mean, it's like unless we take time to, to like I always say, sit down and crouch with your fear and listen to your fear, and hear what fear has to say, and hear what anger has to say, and hear what pain has to say. You're never gonna learn. I don't really think there is and there should be a quote unquote time frame, for you to quote unquote get over it, because I don't think you ever really do get over it.
You still see the scar there.
Yeah, it's still, at least for me, it's still it's a part of who I am, because it's a moment in time, and if I did not go through that, I wouldn't be who I am today, and maybe, and I believe that's why, Kelly's, passing, to go back to the spirit world, this past weekend. The reason I was able to not be angry was all these deaths in my life. I've been able to process, and not process just the death and the loss of a friend or a loved one, but learn from myself, learn more about myself, you know, and I was able to appreciate my friend Kelly, and I'm like, oh, fucking Kelly, you know, because death, no matter what, even though it's imminent when it happens, it's still like, shit, it still gets
Especially
you,
when
it
it's
still strikes you.
unexpected.
It still
Especially when
Yeah,
it's
it
or
unexpected.
interrupts.
especially when it's expected, because
No,
it.
unexpected.
Well, for me, I think it's especially when it's expected because I think there's a part of you there. There's a part of us that, like, yeah, I know they're gonna, I know they're gonna die, but there's hope. I'm holding on to that hope, and when they die, you had to let go of that hope, and letting go of that hope is, at least for me, it's like letting go a little piece of me, you know. And in the past, I was like, I don't want to let go. I don't want to let go a piece of me. And then I've learned it's like, no, no, I'm not letting go a piece of me. A part of me is going with my friend, is going with my abuelita, is going with my family member, and part of them is staying with me. And I think that's how I've learned that I grew. It's like I didn't lose anything because they're still with me. They're still in my heart, and they're still in my soul. They're still in my memories, even though I have a bad memory. Um, but you know, and my loved ones have gone back to the Great Spirit. They fulfilled what they were supposed to do, or maybe they haven't, and maybe they might come back. Um, and it could take as long as, like Javi said, 10 years, 15 years. It might take 1 year, 2 years. Who knows? But who are we to say that what is right and what is wrong? Or when there is a time frame. I think it's the healing process is different for everyone. The mourning is the same because we're all human beings. How we process it and how we go through it is very unique. And it could be a lifetime.
And
You know,
and it's funny because for me, my tío Roberto, that did hit me like a ton of bricks, and I cannot remember precisely um when I got over it, right? And I agree with you. There's really no perfect timing, right, and time frame for that. But I remember for a long time early on being angry and pissed, and yeah, exactly. And then with alcohol, I think we were with my cousin Carlos and my friend Johnny and the brothers. We were in the garage drinking. We're probably maybe a year later. I don't remember. But shit, like every other brown man, you start drinking at a young age, before you're 21. So we're out there drinking and stuff. And my cousin and Carlos is maybe 5, 10 years, no, like 10 years older than me, maybe. And we're partying it up, and we're talking about my tío Beto, and he was like, "Yeah, it was cool, man." And I don't know what happened, dude, but I fucking lost it outside right there. And I just remember him getting me into a fucking cop LAPD back in the day, fucking lock. And I thought to myself, I fucking lost it. I was crying, 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 fucking out of my fucking
Where
heart.
you hold it in, because
Yeah,
that's what
yeah,
happens
and
sometimes.
and I fucking lost it. Like balls to the walls, lost it, and I snapped out of it in my mind when I realized that my older cousin um held me, like did a lock on me, and I fucking let it go, man. And I just surrendered. And he was cool about it, but I was pissed for a second, thinking, dude, I'm gonna fucking knock you to your face. Why are you coming at me like that? But that was just a quick thought. I think the main thought or the process that I went through is like, okay, I can cry about it. I'm fucking cool. And it was alcohol inducing and shit and whatnot, but it was beautiful. And that's when I knew that I was in pain because of that. And then over the years, yeah, eso. And then I accepted it, and over the years, it always bothered me. It was with me for the longest time. And just recently, when we started thinking about name, not recently, my son's 6 years old. 6 years ago, when we found out we were pregnant with my son, we were thinking about names. And it's funny, I'm like, I want to call my son Roberto. And I almost won that battle, but my wife had a good comeback. She said, fuck, man, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 Robertos in our family. I'm like, fuck, name, man. Then I started thinking, shit, okay, I'm not going to divorce my wife to find somebody who has less Robertos in their lives. Like, but the thought occurred.
The fact that you're sharing it with me,
Yeah.
sharing it with us, is because a thought did go through your mind.
It's like, fuck. I was like, how can I get my way to honor my tío Beto and name my firstborn Roberto? Like, fuck that. No woman's gonna tell me what to do with this shit. Like, all right. So the compromise was, that's his middle name, right? So,
Te pegan.
I know, te pegan, right? And now that I'm a grown, mature brown man, I'll take that. That's a compliment. No, but really, and it's in going back to the point of how soon is too soon, or how do you begin, or how do you kind of go from a point of pain, anger, to mourning, healing. And part of that was I was already beyond healed, but it was at the point of honoring the memory of my tío Beto. So now every time I look at my son, especially his name, right, if we're writing down, it's like Santiago Roberto Pereira. So I'm like, that's fucking cool for me. I love that I was able to have that memory continue, or a reminder of somebody special in my life. Just I would imagine, just like my tocayo Raul, when he hugged his grandson, he's like, he's still, there's still something there. There's still something there.
He
that's
felt
beautiful.
Like he's hugging like his son, the spirit of his son.
Exactly.
And he's big. Well, I mean, my nephew is like probably the same size as height and everything as my brother was when he passed away.
Yeah. So I'm already beyond, at least with my uncle, beyond the healing, and I'm at the point of just loving it and enjoying it. And when my son gets old enough, I want to share that beautiful story with him about how special my uncle was in my life and how special he is today. That we decided to give him his, a middle name as Roberto.
And you brought up something really, really important, was surrender.
Mm-hmm.
When we surrender, and not surrender in that I'm giving up my power or anything like that, but surrender in that
acknowledge
and understanding that it's beyond me. And I finally understand that, and I'm okay with that.
It's funny that we are looking at that. We're looking at this topic, a serious topic, and then we look at this. Who would have thought 20 years ago or 30 years ago we'll be looking at the mourning process as a lifetime experience, or an experience whereby you go through extreme anger to honor and celebration. Back then, we were not thinking about that. Okay, compas, so you heard us talk about mourning and all the crazy emotions that we go through. So, compas, what is mourning to you? What is mourning? How do you deal with it? We'd love to hear from you.
So go to our website at loscompaslounge.com and talk with us. We want to listen. We want to learn from you. Until next time, compas, peace be with you.
Yeah, be safe.
Stay strong.